Hello, this is Jennie Adams from Jennie Adams Teaching and Learning. Hello, Jennie.
Hi, Hannah.
And I just wanted to talk to Jennie about how she started her business using the skills from her career as a deputy headmaster. Is that correct?
It is, yeah.
And Jennie has been one of our long-term Kickstart members. So I've watched Jennie's business go right from the very beginning. So I'm really, really excited to talk to you and also myself find out more about you and your business.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So as I mentioned, you were a deputy head teacher. So how's your career evolved? What were you doing before you had children?
Well, I've worked in education all my life, and I qualified as a teacher a very long time ago now, and just loved working with children, and decided that the only way I could make a difference really is to kind of be involved in the decisions that were made into schools. So I worked my way into leadership, and my most recent roles were as a deputy head teacher and an acting head teacher at quite a large primary school, and I absolutely loved it. It was a job that's never the same. Every day is really different, and I've worked in different places. So my career started in the Midlands, so I worked in some quite challenging schools up there, as I'm a Brummie myself, and then I moved down to the south, where I met my husband, and I've worked in the southeast for well over 10 years now, and in lots of different schools. So it's really nice. I've had a really sort of varied career, and the children and the families that I work with have been really rich and diverse, so it's quite nice to have that variety.
And how did your career change once you had children? Because teaching strikes me as potentially quite a child or mum-friendly profession.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? And that's what I thought. And I naively didn't give it much thought. I really thought that my career wouldn't change, that I would be able to go back to my deputy head role and work the hours that I was working, at the intensity that I was working, and more for me. Because it just didn't happen. And one of the things that I've found a lot now is that actually, if you're in a leadership role in education, it's really hard to go back and be offered any sort of flexibility, which is crazy if you think that a lot of the profession are female and are mums. So it was a bit of a shock for me really, because I loved my job. I loved being a deputy head. I loved having the opportunity to be an acting head teacher for a time as well. And so to go back and be told actually we can't offer you any flexibility really just killed my confidence, I think, because it made me think that actually there's something wrong. Perhaps I'm not doing my job well. And so it really just made me wobble in terms of confidence. And I'd always been really confident in the role that I'd had and the job that I'd done, and that just changed really overnight. And so I relinquished all of my leadership responsibilities, because it was the only option I had if I wanted to go back to the setting that I was in at the time, because I was told I couldn't do the job that I was doing unless I went back full time. So I gave up the leadership responsibilities and went back part-time, just as a class teacher, and I really struggled being in the same setting, seeing somebody else doing the job that I really wanted to do and couldn't do. And so I stayed for a little while and then tried a different setting, and just realised that I wanted to be in leadership. I wanted to be in the same position that I was, but I wanted to be able to do it more flexibly so I could be the sort of mum that I wanted to be as well. Because the hours of a deputy head and a head teacher is crazy. They work so incredibly hard, and as much as I really struggled giving that up, I wanted to be with my daughter as a new mum. And so that's what really pushed me to make the decision. I looked around for other leadership roles that would give me the flexibility that I wanted, and couldn't find anything, which I think is quite shocking really. I guess I hadn't thought about it before. And so I decided I would create my own role, which is the scariest thing I've ever done.
Is that how you came up with the idea for Jennie Adams Teaching and Learning?
Yes, I think so. Out of necessity, I want to work. I don't want to waste my skills, and I love teaching. I've put so much time and effort into it, and the really great thing is that when you see a child kind of make a leap and achieve things against all the odds. And I've worked with lots of children. Lots of the settings I work in are with children that have real challenges to face, and so when you see those kids take huge leaps, it's amazing. And I just didn't want to kind of give that up. And so I sort of thought about the skills that I had, what I could do, and I really wanted to stay within the sector of education because it's my passion, it's what I love, it's what I know, it's what I thought I was good at, until I had my wobble. And so that's kind of where my thinking began. And I decided to look at what was available kind of locally where I live, and found a few gaps in the market. And I guess that's where the idea started to kind of form and come from.
So how did you come up with the idea? So obviously you were looking for something and able to use your skills in the same area. But how did you come up with your actual business idea?
Lots of talking to friends and family and colleagues, and I was at the stage where I needed the business to be quite small and manageable, to fit around the childcare that I had, because I don't have any immediate family that live close. So it needed to work in the hours that I'd got. And the obvious thing for me to do was to teach. That's what I love. That's what I wanted to do. And also support other teachers and colleagues. That's been a big part of my role over the years is coaching other teachers and senior leaders to do a better job. And so I looked into how I could provide that for schools. And so I came up with sort of three main ideas really, and that was to offer services to schools in terms of consultancy, and also group teaching for children that had different needs. And also I wanted to carry on teaching myself, which is kind of where my business has it's gone in that direction more than any other way actually. And I do a lot of one-to-one teaching now, with all sorts of different children with different needs, and I support homeschooled children as well and families. And I wanted to, my belief really is that all children can learn. It doesn't matter what their background, and I really believe that children have got a right to a really good, outstanding, amazing, exciting education, and it shouldn't have to cost the earth. I just think it's something that all children are entitled to, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to carry on the teaching, and I guess that's where the main idea came from.
And how daunting was it? What were the feelings that you had? Did you find it difficult?
I was absolutely petrified. I guess I've always, working in schools, you've always got that organisation behind you. So, you know, it's not too scary to kind of stand up and do things and offer advice and support, because you know you've got all of the structures in place and that support you. But actually when you're doing that on your own, it's quite a different thing. And you know, I would quite happily, you know, stand in a hall in front of 450 children and 50 members of staff and not think anything of it. But actually to start to go out and do things on my own when you don't have that organisation and structure behind you, I found it terrifying. And I think because I'd had such a wobble in confidence as well after my return to work, it was a really, really big step. But I knew I had to do something because I was just so unhappy with my situation at the time. So I think it was a mixture of fear, excitement, exhilaration, stupidity at times.
I think actually, and I see a lot of people start businesses or go freelance or make big decisions in times of discomfort. I think it's harder when you are comfortable to make a brave decision.
Yeah.
I also think that you always need to have that sort of, oh my gosh, this isn't going to work, kind of fear in you.
Yeah.
It drives you further than complacency does. I think you think it's going to be easy, you're not going to work as hard. So I always think that, I always feel like it's almost like jumping off a cliff.
Yeah.
I think it actually makes you, you know, work harder because there's no safety net there. You really have to make a go of it.
Yeah, I would totally agree. And I think after I went back, I realised the role that the new role that I was in just wasn't for me. It wasn't working, and I moved to a new setting. And it's the only time I've ever taken a job and thought, what am I doing? This is just not the right thing for me. And I think that really cemented the fact that I needed to do something different. And so I made the really big decision to resign. And teachers have quite a long leading time for resignation. So I resigned. I'd taken the job in September and resigned in the October, which is, to me, something I would never have done before. And so I was absolutely petrified. Yeah. But it gave me the push I needed to actually think, I have to do something now. I have to make this work. And as soon as I'd resigned, I felt so much happier. And I think that just gave me the space to think and come up with the ideas. And so I had a few months knowing that my job was going to finish at a certain point, and that gave me the impetus to pull my finger out, I guess, really.
And so how did you go from, okay, I've got an idea with 3 potential target audiences, 3 things I can do, to actually creating a business? What was the process you went through?
It was a bit ad hoc to start off with. I spoke to lots of colleagues, friends, families, and did a bit of research about the sort of things that they wanted, and initially started to look around to see what, I guess, my competitors offer, and the sorts of services they offer. And I wanted to be able to, I knew I couldn't be as big as some of my local competitors, because I don't have that capacity at the moment. So I wanted to make sure what I did was really good and high quality, so that I could build up a client base. So I started to talk to people about what they wanted. I did a few surveys, and then I knew I'd got kind of the educational knowledge, but not the business knowledge. And that's when I started to look around for more support. So just started Googling and found TLC. And I went to a Mum's Enterprise event as well. And that's kind of where it really started. And I used a lot of the TLC resources to kind of find my way a little bit, because I knew I needed certain things, but I didn't necessarily do them in the right order. And I think that's what I needed support with. But essentially, it was the resources from the TLC, your website, that I used to get me where I was at a starting point. And I just started trading, I guess, and hoped for the best.
I think often in the early days, it is a question of just putting something out there.
Yeah.
Waiting until it's perfect and you know everything just means you're never going to get it done. So absolutely did the right thing. So how's your business evolved since then? How's it evolved so far?
I guess I've got better at kind of saying yes to opportunities that have come up with. So I've learned to be a little bit more flexible. I think initially I had a really rigid idea of what I wanted my business to be, where I wanted it to go. And actually, by saying yes to things, it's kind of taken off in a way that I didn't expect it to. So essentially, a lot of my work is now with, I work one-to-one with families and children and homeschool children, and I do less work with schools actually at the moment. And so I've really focused on that side of my business. And that's the part of the business that has grown. And I also do, I offer learning sessions during the holidays. So I now have a little learning club. And so that side of things has really taken off, and that's the bit that I've now put my energy and time into, because I know that that's working. I've still got ideas of how I want it to grow, but one of my barriers to overcome now is capacity, how I need to find a way of expanding my capacity so that I can make it grow. And also find time to work on my business rather than in it, because I'm doing all the teaching, so that takes a lot of the time that I have.
Yeah, that's a classic mistake that many business owners make, isn't it? Not working on their business.
Yeah.
So what's made the biggest difference to your business taking off and establishing itself and growing?
I think social media has been amazing. So that has been really good. And I'm a real tech phobe. So I really, it's one of the things I really struggle with. I think mainly because as a teacher, you've always, previously been discouraged to kind of use social media, whereas now it's a really amazing learning tool. So I've had to do quite a bit of learning myself. So I've used social media really to publicise my business. And that's kind of helped it grow. Word of mouth has been amazing as well, so I've tried to capitalize on that and use testimonials and reviews. Setting up my website as well was a big thing, and that's really helped, hopefully, to give my business a bit more of a professional air, because I think the first thing people do when they want to know about you is they
Google you, yeah,
you and find you. So those sorts of things have really helped. And then I've done some training myself, so I've done a lot of the courses on the TLC site, which is great. Kickstart has been fabulous for me, because it just gave me a lot of the knowledge that I didn't have. So I've spent a lot of sleepless nights doing the courses, which has been brilliant, and being part of the business club, because going from a school, an educational setting, a school setting where you've got a really big team around you, to working individually, I found really quite hard, because I'm so used to working as part of a team. And that's one of the things I struggle with the most. So having that network through the business club has been a bit of a lifesaver, really. It's really nice to know you can ask people questions, and you always get a really genuine and honest response and helpful response. So those things have made a big difference to me.
Yeah, it's wonderful how people come together and collaborate and are so generous with sharing their information.
Yeah.
And what hasn't worked? What have you tried that you've discovered that's not been right for you?
I think initially I was a bit, maybe a bit too keen with pushing certain parts of my business. Particularly, I really wanted to kind of stay and work with schools, and I think I did that just at the wrong time. But at that time, I was so determined that that's what I wanted to do. I didn't do my research properly. So I think one of the things I've learned is do your research and do things in a timely fashion. Doesn't matter how amazing something is if the time's not right. And I was trying to push my work with schools at a time where, you know, schools have real dwindling budgets. There's a teacher recruitment and retention crisis, and so the last thing head teachers are going to want to do is answer emails from me. So I think that I've learned just to kind of be patient, wait, and I will come back to that when the time is right, and focus on the things that work at the moment. And I think that's the biggest thing, really, is to don't kind of waste time on things that are not working if the time isn't right. Put it aside and come back to it, I guess.
Yeah, being brave enough to recognise what they are and just stopping something. It's quite hard to do when you're starting out. But really
I think it's quite scary, because when you are in those initial stages, you want to do everything all at once, and you want everything to be perfect, and it doesn't work like that. So I think I'm learning that you have to not sweat the small stuff, I guess, and just try and get on and do things, and you can improve things and change things as you go along. And I think it's good for people to see that you're human as well, and you've got flaws, and you make mistakes the same as everybody else. So
honestly, everyone does. Every successful entrepreneur I've spoken to has got a long list of mistakes. Don't worry. So where would you love your business to be in 3 years' time?
I'd really like to develop the capacity to expand the business. It's quite small at the moment. I think it's running really well, which is great, and really exciting, but I struggle to find the time to work on it rather than in it. So that's something I really need to do. And I would like to sort of get back into schools a little bit more. So I do miss that setting. And I'd really love to maybe think about how I can get other people to join me. And I think education is really good if you can collaborate with people. And I think that's one of the things I want to look into, is how I can draw more people really to collaborate with me. So those are the sorts of things that I'm looking at the moment. So just trying to think about how I can make it bigger without losing the quality of what I'm offering.
Sounds really exciting.
Thank you.
And finally, so you know we've just relaunched Kickstart, a 12-month course. So you've been in it for quite a while, and so you know a lot of the tools. What would you say to someone that was thinking about joining Kickstart?
I think do it, definitely do it. I mean, for me, I was starting a business with no budget. I had nothing, and I think if you need to invest in something that's going to help you create a structure, because I really floundered at the beginning of knowing what to do and when, and it's really easy to focus on too many things at once. And I think what the program will give you is that structure to just focus on one thing, do it really well, get it right, and then move on. So I think it will really help people not be overwhelmed, because I think that happens so easily in the early days. And Kickstart just gave me all of the resources I needed for things that I had no knowledge about. So setting up a website, SEO, social media is a big thing for me. And I've found all of the information that I needed through TLC. So I think it's really comprehensive, it's really good quality, and it's really easy to understand. I think sometimes, I've looked at lots of different business clubs and training courses, and some of them I think are really unfriendly and not approachable. And I think TLC is a really supportive network, and that is what really sold it to me. It's talented people helping other talented people, and it doesn't matter what stage you're at, because there's always something you're going to get out of it. So I think it's a must-have, really. It was essential for me, and I think it's got me to the stage where I'm at now. I don't think I could have done it without it.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. I'm really delighted you found Kickstart.
Oh, me too.
And I love watching your business grow. And I'm really
Thank you, Hannah.
Where you go next with it. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you.